All right, welcome to another episode of It Is What It Is. I'm Leo, and I have Jonah with me here today. What's up, man?
Hello, everyone.
So I think, I wanted to kind of clarify why, you know, well, I guess I should step back and say, I think the main reason why I started a podcast, at least for me, because I remember inviting you guys and saying like, hey, would you guys be down for a podcast? And, the main reason for me, and I kind of wanted to bring this topic in today's podcast, was that I was kind of seeing a shift in our community, basically, or our society, as far as how much divided we are as a nation, or in the world. I would care to say in the world, just because I feel like people. I don't know if it's people lost patience or what, but you're not able to have a discussion of any kind with anybody, like not with anybody, but with a lot of people. You're afraid of basically speaking out, or having a discussion with somebody. And I don't know if you have been getting that kind of feeling too, but it's something apparent, at least for me. Like, I can't, I don't know how many meaningful conversations, you can have with people, but for me, it's not that many besides, work.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're saying. I have seen it and I guess experienced it up to a certain extent. But I think it definitely has to do mainly with you know politics or anything. I mean, especially with politics and anything that revolves this topic. Because usually this is something that's controversial. Everyone has their own opinion, but the problem to what you're saying is that people are not willing to listen to what the other person's opinion is, and they immediately just shut it down. And that's definitely something I've seen.
Yeah, yeah, and
Notice.
I don't really know when it started. I mean, some people could say that it's, well, Trump kind of was the catalyst for a lot of this, but I kind of doubt it, because I think it has been for a while where you see it a lot, at least on the internet. I think people, the filter is kind of lost, right? Like, you
Hmm.
lose that touch, that you could have with a person face to face, where you're more inclined to basically say whatever you want, even if it's hurtful, or even if it's not. You get what I'm saying? It's really toxic, basically.
Yeah.
Like, the internet is probably one, or if not the most toxic place that you could be,
Hmm.
as far as the level of anger, or I don't even know how would you put it, but it's just, it's not even people being honest or blunt. It's just they could care less of what impact that could have to the person on the other side of the screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean it's that because you're just behind a screen and all you're doing is just typing words and sending them into the interwebs. So that's it. I mean, you're not seeing a person face to face, which it's always hard. It's harder to tell a person and tell him to his face. A lot of people feel safe, I guess.
Yeah.
That they're home, they're behind the screen, and then they're just saying whatever they want.
Hmm. Why do you think that is, that we're scared to say what we mean, or what we believe? I think people say, they're not afraid of. A lot of people are not afraid of saying what they mean, but they may be afraid of saying what they think. Because uh, I'm gonna dare to say, right? It kind of takes you back a few years, where, like, let's say, when, before the whole coming out of the closet, right? Topic.
Mhm.
Just think about that, where the person that may be gay, bisexual, you name it, would be afraid of saying something. It would be because it would be in contrary to the popular or the majority belief, right? That was in society. So there's you were afraid of, to speak your personal opinion, right?
Yeah.
And that's just to give an example of the type of fear that some people have when talking to somebody, especially if it's a topic that you may not even be super knowledgeable about, right? Um, I mean, like I said, it's kind of hard to say when this started, but definitely, I mean, there's a precedent, there's a history to being scared of saying an unpopular opinion. Uh, but I think I'm just curious to know what you think as far as like why do you think that is that we're afraid of saying it? Is it just do we think what applies in the internet is kind of something that people think happens in real life? Or why do you think that is like why would you be scared of saying something even if it's not the most popular thing out there?
Well, definitely in this day and age, is because of backlash. Now
Backlash.
you say something that is unpopular, and the whole world is there to see you, like on social media, especially. Now you may be out in the streets, and you say something, someone records you,
Mm.
and you end up being viral. You lose your job. You lose, you can obviously you lose your job, your source of income. That's happened.
Yeah.
Someone has tweeted something, and it ends up being overblown. They end up being fired. They have a hard time. Not only they lost their job, but basically they're canceled
Right.
essentially.
Right.
And this has happened for a lot of times for something as as normal or trivial as literally voting for Trump, for example. That
Right.
those were, just to kind of go back
Well,
to the politics or whatever.
yeah.
There were some instances, during last election that someone, I believe it was a teacher that didn't even say anything on the Twitter besides something saying like I support Trump or something like that.
Right.
Just that was enough to get him fired,
Fired.
which it's mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like okay, and let me know if you think the same way. Life, if we go to the color spectrum, like between black and white, life is not black and white. There's a lot of gray area in between,
Yeah.
and I feel like we're in a state, and I want to, like I said, I dare to say in the world where a lot of people don't see that gray area. It's either you're completely wrong or you're completely right, and
Yeah.
there's no room for discussion. You get what I'm saying? Like where, and I'll take, I do want to explore that Trump topic a little bit more, as far as what the divide that right that people may have experienced. But let's even take it simpler. Like I'm a huge dog lover, right? Like I love dogs and stuff, but I dare you to go to the internet and put something like I hate dogs. How do you think the
Mhm.
response is really gonna be? I mean, people are gonna be like going at you. Yes, I understand it's what you're posting on social media, and whatnot, but instead of let's say I think the right way to go about it would be instead of saying like, well, because people are gonna say this in a lot of the replies are gonna be like, well, like F you, like this you shouldn't hate dogs, like dogs hate, like
Mhm.
they'll go crazy on the comments instead of somebody saying like, well, why is that? Like, what have the dogs done? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, where it's like black and white. Like, it could be as simple as like, oh, maybe he's a cat person, but no, it's
Yeah.
it's it's
It's immediately going there to destroy you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's that toxic. I don't even think it's the toxic mentality. I think that maybe it's getting to us, and I don't. Sadly, I don't think I see it only in social media because the reason why those videos that you're talking about that go viral, they go viral because it got said outdoors out there in society, and somebody happened to have a phone
Mhm.
and recorded it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's where we're at, I guess. And I don't even think, I think it's always been like that, but definitely. social media has made it easier for a single idea to just travel at light speed or whatever, and get to millions and millions and millions of people, and little by little that one idea becomes the norm. So I feel that
That's
the
interesting.
behavior and seeing things black and white has always been there,
Right.
because it's human nature. But I do feel nowadays we see it, through like cancel culture, and this guy tweeted this, let's cancel him, let's fire him,
Right.
and you see news like that, almost every week or every day. Might as
Right.
well, like, oh, this actress you know did this or said this, and sometimes it's like, really, that
That's
was
what
enough for
to cancel
to
somebody.
lynch her,
Yeah.
on the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely, because of these platforms, Twitter especially, or particularly
That's why I don't
known,
have a Twitter, man.
yeah, for because that's where the social media lynching happens, or where it starts, or at least the most pervasive one is Twitter.
Yeah.
Everyone gets canceled in Twitter, including Trump.
Yeah. I mean that's just a good example, and and something that we're gonna try on this podcast is really not to get political, because that's not the intent of the podcast, but it's a
Plus, it's not our expertise by any
it's
means.
also not our expertise, but it's a good example that needs to be discussed, right? Like, where you could hate the guy, and the guy could have done everything that you say that that he did, or the facts could be out there of the things that he has done, but you also have to understand that you can't. It's hard to justify canceling somebody, right, for the sake of them being wrong. Like, I don't condone the bad things that the guy
Or not
said.
necessarily wrong, but just having a
A different opinion.
opinion than what the mainstream opinion
Right.
is.
Yeah, and let's this is a good example that I like flat earthers, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you look, there's documentaries on Netflix that you can watch. There's blogs that you can
Oh,
go
there is
into.
one?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need to watch that.
yeah, you do. But as people of science, that I want to say that we are, right, just because that's our field, like engineering and sciences. Instead of bashing on them for believing, and it's funny, I would be lying if I would be like, oh man, like if I saw that and I didn't laugh, it's funny, and but the reality of it is, instead of, because I saw this a lot, where if somebody was accused of being a flat earther, they would be like going at them like hard, dude, like no, you're dumb, like this has been proven, like anything. Now, I will say that, and spoiler to the documentary on Netflix that you may watch later, but a lot of the flat earther community actually was trying to like test and get scientific backing to their argument, and there is value to that, right? Because I would never see something wrong when somebody's trying to prove something wrong. That's in my book, that's great. It's better for you to actually do your research and try to prove something wrong, right? And find the facts, and then you make your decision of like, oh wait, I was wrong, right? Or I was right. And because a lot of the things, like even science, like a lot of, like, for example, the black hole theories that we have, Stephen Hawking was wrong, and he admitted it, right, on some of his findings, or not findings, but his theories. And that goes to say, like, there is benefit to having a discussion, even if that one leads you to the wrong answer, because at least you prove it once again. That's why they're called theories, because they're things that you can test for, and the evidence is going to lead you to the right answer. So having the unpopular belief shouldn't be something that we cancel. It should be something that we encourage and have a discussion about.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't really know. Besides knowing they exist, I don't know anything about the flat earthers, and besides knowing they exist and they believe that the Earth is flat,
Yeah.
obviously. But I haven't seen the Netflix documentary. I haven't seen anything else. And for that one specifically, yeah, I mean, as long as they're not hurting anyone, I don't give a crap what they do. To be completely honest, and if they're really trying to prove and come and gather data or whatever, that and prove that the Earth is flat, sure, go at it.
Go nuts.
Go nuts. Like, you're not hurting anyone. It's not, but go at it. Like, do whatever
makes you
happy.
sleep at night.
Yeah, it's really no different in a way than I'm gonna say like religion or something. It's as long as you're not hurting anyone, you can do whatever you want. You can believe whatever you want. Specifically, obviously, the flat earther, it's a little harder because there's
scientific.
It's more than a belief. It's scientifically proven, and I know it's been it's different than throughout thousands and thousands of years ago. The ancient Greeks came up with something, whatever, like their hypotheses and looking at skies and their ideas about physics.
I mean, navigation.
Stuff. Yeah, all that stuff. They and throughout the years, they're different scientists. They've proven each other wrong. As time goes by. At this point, I feel we got it down.
Yeah, we got that.
That anything, not everything, but most of it, at least inside planet Earth,
has
gravity,
a scientific explanation.
Yeah. Like, because I've also heard that there are some people that maybe it's flat earthers too that do not believe in gravity. So anyways, like those
you blew my mind.
Yeah.
No, but yeah.
So those things, it's like, go at it as long as you're not hurting anyone. But you're probably gonna lose. I mean, you're not gonna find anything that proves that wrong. When we're talking about outer space and wormholes or whatever, that's a different beast.
Right? Because there's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah,
out there.
Exactly. That who knows? But anything inside planet Earth, I feel that it's people are gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, but wrong. I think but you get the point though, right? It's more about
live and let live.
It's more about even having, is it patience, I want to say? Because that's the other thing, right? Like, maybe you and I have a different perspective on this because, like I said, you go through college and you have all your scientific classes. I mean, even forget about college. I think some of that gets pretty much explained since like middle school or high school, right? But maybe it's just because we understand the science or the methods that arrive to that conclusion. But there's people that may not necessarily, like, especially if you're not educated, right? You can't bash somebody for not knowing, something that to us is obvious. So, but it goes again to, well, let's have a discussion. Let's not bash this person. You don't know what that other person has been through. And I get it. I'm not saying like there's people out there that are throwing bad information out there on purpose, right? Because they may monetize from it, or they may, there's bad people out there. I'm not saying everything's, once again, I don't believe everything is black and white. There's always special situations, but for the most part is not having the patience to talk about a topic that I think really grinds my gears. Where, and to going back to that fear of saying something, right? One of the things would be maybe when you generalize something about somebody else, that ends up hurting the other person, right? And I'm gonna clarify this a little bit. When I say that, is going back to your Trump supporter example. How many potential Trump supporters or Trump supporters get associated with all the views? And I'm not saying like some of the views, I'm saying all the views that the guy threw out there while he was in office or while he was running, or whatever. I can tell you that I have Trump supporter friends that I know really well, and they're nothing, and they disagree with a lot of the things that he said, and the only reason why they aligned themselves in that, in that election, or that moment where they hit the vote, it's because some of their values were represented on that candidate and nothing else. They don't condone the guy for what he said. They don't support a lot of the things that he said. It's just the fact that now that they're a Trump supporter, that somebody, if they say something, they go like, man, if, they tell it to me because, they know who they can talk to, that they're going to be, they're able to have that discussion, right? And I don't know if you see the same thing, but for me, it's kind of scary, the fact that people are going like, well, now I can't say anything because, one, either they're gonna cancel me, two, they're gonna bash me, and nobody's gonna take their time to explain it, or three, well, there's nobody out there that really cares about my opinion. That may be there are three reasons why people are not saying something, and it could also be the reason why they're so toxic out there, right? Because you get tired of people not listening or not even having that time, that at the end of the day you're gonna be going like, well, F those guys, because they don't care about me. I know that my people are, your close niche of people that do believe what you believe, they're the ones that care for you, right? So I think that's where you kind of start getting that divide, right, of the state that we're in. And it just sucks, man. I like I said, when I started the podcast, it's like, I want to have a meaningful discussion with somebody. Like, I don't care about what it is, but as long as you have it, I think that says a lot about us. And I went a little bit deep for me, but it's true. I mean, I can't say that I like oranges because there's gonna be a guy that says, no, like, you should only eat apples, or whatever. You name it, and they're gonna call you online.
Yeah, and that's a great example that pretty much sums it all up, as to how a lot of people are out there. Right? You say, the sky is blue, someone will say the sky is green,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, he hates you, or you hate him, or whatever, and that's it. There's no conversation, and no one is willing to hear.
Yeah, and it's here. I guess just because I feel like we're in a safe space, right? And this is just to prove the point. Maybe call it a social experiment, right? Like, but one of the recent opinions that, and I remember this clearly because I had this conversation with a couple of my friends, and these are close friends that usually we voice things out between each other, and there's rarely any pushback, and there's actually that discussion. But there's a specific instance where it rubbed the guy the wrong way, right? And it's the whole when we were talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, mm-hmm. and a lot of the, the cop violence and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And my argument to him was, yes, Black Lives Matter, right? And this is like, once again, I'm going to try to say this as carefully as I can, so that way things don't get taken out of context. So that way I'm not canceled. But Black Lives Matter, and I support, the fact that, the Black community has been like, basically, I want to say abused, like, for a lot of years. There's a lot of history there that it's hard to overcome. But I also told my friend, I was like, well, we're also in the middle of a pandemic. So as much as I, in my opinion, I was like, I support them. I don't know how I could show my support, but like, for example, some of the rallies that happened out in the streets, to me, in my opinion, as important as the topic is, did not justify the state of our country, as far as the pandemic, right? Because the pandemic was on, like, cases were going up, at least here in that. I'm talking on the view of this area here in San Diego, right? Where the protests were happening. A lot of people were out there. This is where vaccines weren't even, I think they were being talked about, but they were not being rolled out by any means.
Yeah, no, it was very soon, because you're talking about May.
Yeah.
Of last year.
Yeah. So for me, I was telling him, I was like, look, I support it. I don't agree with the way it's being done, because there's not to say there's more important things, but we're in a specific situation. In a regular, normal days, no COVID, I would be like, yes, do your thing, show your support, protest whatever you know, because yeah, that's fine, but you get what I'm saying, like, and this person I remember really clearly because he's like, no, you don't understand, this is huge and this is more important, and the guy, I don't want to say we're still friends, we still talk, but and actually afterwards he kind of apologized because he was like, you know what, I think I just went a little bit overboard, because at that point basically the guy flipped the switch was flipped, and the guy pretty much said like, no, like, no, you're so wrong, blah 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 blah. Like, we didn't even get to the point of like having that discussion, right? So that was one of my experiences where I was like, dude, I mean, I'm sorry, but that you don't support my opinion, but that's just how I think, like, but even it happens with your close friends, so you do wonder sometimes where, like, well, if I can't say this to this guy, what makes me think that I can go to, like,
Yeah.
Another guy and
To a random stranger out there.
yeah, like, well, I think I told you my other point, or I think I had told you this experience, like, even with my neighbor, um not too long ago, like, I just, this is the first time I go and knock at his door, and I just wanted to like to talk to him about something, and the guy was so afraid of even opening the door or even talking at all. Like, the guy literally shut down and said like, no, please, like get out of here, don't bother me, I don't want anything, like, we couldn't even, there was no like hi bye, I don't know if what's going on. So I mean, I stepped away, but you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of fear. I don't know if you have gotten any of that kind of backlash, if in your social media, or or if you saw it a lot of, like, in your social media, like, connections, or not, but that's something that I did see.
Yeah, I mean, specifically BLM was a big one, and I guess still is, but specifically talking about May, June, July of last year, it was especially a hot topic, because of all the protests that were going around, countrywide and, well, even worldwide.
Right, because even in Europe, right?
Yeah, so there were some protests. Not, well, at least I didn't read of any like looting in England, for example, in France, where there were also some demonstrations and protests. Didn't hear any of looting. Like, there were many cases of looting here in the U.S., in Minnesota, and New York City, or Minneapolis, specifically, in the state of Minnesota. New York City, here in San Diego and La Mesa, there was.
Oh, that's right. They closed the freeway, I think, at some point, too.
Yeah. People were just walking on I-8, which was kind of crazy to see.
Yeah,
that in the
for
news.
the people that are not in this area, like, the high 8 is basically a 5-lane freeway. It's pretty close to, like, the 5 and the 8 as far as, like, the width of it. It's a big freeway. It's not like your, like, 2-lane freeway. It's a large freeway.
So yeah, I mean, like, that whole BLM topic was definitely something that I heard a lot of different opinions. People supporting it, people that were against it, not necessarily because they thought that Black lives didn't matter, but because of the ways that a lot of the supporters were acting. For example, looting, and burning down banks and anything related, of that sort, basically destroying cities and mom and pop shops, and just going completely overboard. A lot of these people claim that they were doing that because the state of the country had reached max levels of systemic racism and all kinds of police brutality and all kinds of, which it's I can see. Well, I do not support it, to be honest with you. I was against the looting and destroying federal property, destroying
it's like you're saying,
private
like,
property, all that stuff. I just thought like that was overboard. At the same time, it's kind of tricky. At the same time, I understand the anger of the people, but when you're affecting, you know, other citizens as well.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, not that it matters, but you know, there were a lot of these businesses were owned, you know, by black people, which I guess isn't this
it's
movement.
ironic. Yeah.
It was ironic, and it just didn't. It didn't send the best image for the movement or the organization or whatever it is. I'm not, to be honest with you. I'm at this point. I think BLM is an actual organization.
I think
more than just a movement or a chant. I think it's an actual organization.
It may have. I'm not gonna answer because I really don't know, but I vaguely remember the Black Lives Matters was an organization, but it wasn't what, you know, because they used the slogan, it kind of grew right into that organization, but it wasn't really, you know, I don't know if that's how it started, but anyways, I mean, to your point, I mean, granted that yes, you know,
I don't even know if I answer your question, but
no,
I went on a tangent.
No, it's a good point, and I love tangents, but yeah, that's a good example of, like, let's say we don't know, we weren't there, right, to prove of who did it and why, right? Like, because I did hear that argument that a lot of, and you know, this is just, no, there's no facts to back anything, right? But some people say, like, well, it's people, they were not really the Black Lives Matters people. There's people that go and it doesn't matter. The point is, and it goes back to your original point at the very beginning of the podcast, do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, right? And in this case, it would be the business owners or I remember and this is another one where I remember there was a video of, I want to say it was here in San Diego, and it may be in a dominated white neighborhood with like business. I may have been Coronado. Actually, no, I take it back. I don't know if it was Coronado, but it's a video of like an elderly couple having a lunch or a dinner at the restaurant outdoors, right? With COVID and I mean, not COVID, with they were just having a lunch, right, at one of the restaurants, while one of the Black Lives Matters movement was happening. And in the video, you only see basically when the couple is sitting down, people are marching, and then you see somebody going to the elderly couple, and then first of all, they grabbed their food and ate it, and then they started like yelling at them, you know, like racist things to them, and basically, you know, the couple just kind of stayed quiet and left it there. I think they stepped away, you know, and then they may have like stepped over some tables or something, right? Like there was a commotion about it. And to me, people go like, you know, the argument that some people say is that, well, they think that I don't think they said that specific couple, but somebody yelled something racist to the Black Lives movement, and that's why they went there. But to my point, you see, that shouldn't have happened either way. If there was somebody yelling, in my opinion, if there's somebody yelling at you racist things, the answer shouldn't be, you're proving their point by you becoming aggressive and lowering yourself to their level. You see, that's where you should know that most likely there's going to be somebody recording you, and where you can stand up and really make a difference is if you literally have that conversation, approach them and be like, why did you say that? And that's where we go, like the toxicity, right? Of like, instead of saying like, you know, F you, and start, first of all, like, why would you eat their food? Second of all, they're an older couple.
Yeah, they're hungry, man. All day protesting out there.
It's an older couple. It's not like if they're gonna like take you out on a fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys have also lived their, assuming that it was them that said it, because like I said, it's kind of lost in there, right? Because the video only shows you the perspective of the video. It doesn't matter. The fact of the way that even if the way people responded is just not like, dude, I don't even know. I don't react that way, at least. And I'm really, I have a character sometimes. It takes a lot for me to like snap at somebody, but I just feel like it's patience or like, I'm not saying if a guy hits you, don't hit him back. Right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, you have to be smart about it, right? Like we're well educated in this country for us to like act as if we're not even educated, right? Like if we're like animals, Like I feel like sometimes like we act like if we're freaking animals, you know, and not
Yeah.
to offend the animals, but what we do, it's crazy. I mean,
Yeah. One of the things that I hate that we're living nowadays that is that I, I don't want to say it's related to it because I'm not gonna like generalize BLM or whatever because to be honest, I know very little about the
right,
movement, but I do feel that nowadays there is this kind of weird low key or sometimes not even low key sentiment about being okay making fun or bullying or treating anyone that's not black or of color if I should say something basically treating white people shitty just for the sake of being white
yeah, yeah,
and
no,
and a lot of people I feel that nowadays with this whole cancel culture and BLM and all that stuff that's going on, some people that are crazy and stupid uh, think that it's okay to treat white people shitty as if there's as if now they feel like they're backed by the current state of
right,
things when it's like what's wrong with you?
yeah.
You're just being shitty. Like, don't be shitty.
Don't be shitty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's treat others like you want to be treated, almost, right? Like, who cares take this home, right? Who cares what ethnicity, like, color, whatever your preference, like, who cares, right? At the end of the day, it's like, yeah, don't hurt anybody or don't hurt yourself while you're doing it, and just be mindful of others. Like, I want to see what you think, but as us being of Mexican descent, right? Um, I I should say that I don't think I've experienced racism one or two times. Granted that we're in San Diego, there's a large population of like Mexicans here,
Oh yeah.
or Hispanics for that matter, right? Well, I'm gonna ask you this question because I think this is gonna bring it up. Do you think there's truth to a lot of the stereotypes out there when it comes to somebody's like cultural background or ethnical background?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So I was telling my cousin, and this was my opinion, and to him it was the opposing opinion. I was like, well, let's think. Let's say this, right? Like, I think the specific example that I said was, they think that, let's say, all Mexicans do gardening, right? And my cousin was like, in this situation, he was offended, and he was offended in the sense like, well, why do they have to say that we're all, and it's the stereotype, right?
So a person said, yeah, all Mexicans do
Like,
gardening.
go mow the lawn.
Okay. Like a comment like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was literally, if I remember correctly, that was literally the comment that we got, and it was we were at a park,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure that was the comment that basically, my cousin, he's a big soccer, and we were playing, and they, let's just say that things got heated with the other team, and it wasn't really to the guy that happened, right? Like, let's say like he just approached him the wrong way. Like, it was like a bad approach to
Oh,
him.
okay. Huh.
And somebody, friends of that person that that my cousin wasn't the wrong. Like, he did go a little bit too much, right? But it's a sport. Like, you see that like all the times. But somebody that was expectating, he basically yelled at him like, "Go mow the lawn," like like, get out of here, right? And my cousin was all like, why, like, like, why do they have to like call us out that way, right? And I told him, I was like, well, what do you find offensive about that? I was like, I did gardening for a good time. I don't find it offensive. I get it. I get it that they're saying it with an intent of being offensive, but once again, the way you react and the way you behave, it's gonna change their point of view, right? It's like saying, like, if somebody tells you like, "Hey, Jonathan, you're with the cartel, you deal drugs, like, all your family, like, Well, no, I mean the way you prove them wrong is doing what? Like, no, I'm not involved with drugs, right? What best? Well, sorry. Why are you not sharing? But you get what I'm saying though. It's it's you support the view by acting that way. Like I do care the way that other people perceive me, right? Like I want to make sure that in a way I feel like I represent my I don't want to say my country because I was born here in the U.S., but I do feel myself connected, right, in Mexico too. Like, I do feel like you have that responsibility as a Mexican to put the best foot forward, to so that people like stop stereotyping or thinking of somebody of Mexican descent the wrong way. I don't know if you have that same feeling, like, but that's something that I do consider a lot. Like it bothers me a lot.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And you're probably not necessarily referring to gardening or anything, but more
Right.
on the bad side of the stereotypes
Right.
that us Mexicans have
Well,
in general.
I mean, for that example, I think my point there, right? The reason, and this is the way I see it, right? Like the whole gardening thing. For me, that's saying that there's also okay. It goes with the stereotype of like, oh, Mexicans, they work for cheap and good and whatever, and so in a way they're calling us cheap labor.
Right.
But for me, that goes like, we're just hardworking, right? That's my argument to that.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, you also, and people got to understand that whoever's throwing, any racial slurs or stereotypes or whatever, just
They have a small penis.
I mean, it's stupid to get mad. I understand it's not pleasant,
Yeah.
but if in this case, it's a random stranger, saying something. Who cares? Blow it off. You know,
Go at it, bro.
it's not. I mean, to me, it's not a big. I'm not condoning it. Obviously, I'm not saying it's right, but people are gonna be stupid. There's
Yeah.
stupid people out there in the world. You can't. You can't. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about it. And those are the people that are racist.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. It is what it is. Like people, and then not only here, that happens everywhere. There's racist people in every single country out there, and that's the way, and it will never change.
It's the sad truth.
Yeah, it will never change. And for to add on what you were saying about you trying to, I don't want to say behave, but like act in a way that is not, at least not the bad, that it does not represent the bad stereotypes of Mexicans, because they're out there or whatever, like oh, we're loud, we're like
You
kinda
are
like
loud.
yeah, yeah, and we are. That's but loud, and about like we don't care. We're loud. We're dirty.
We don't shower.
We
dirty.
litter and all that stuff. Well, in obviously there stereotypes are they generalize. It doesn't mean that every Mexican is that way. So in a certain way, I don't really worry about it. I mean, obviously I don't litter or do any of that, that
You only
stuff.
do drugs.
I wish I could garden or knew how to do construction or stuff. That's another stereotype, which is
Wait, you don't know how to do construction?
no, I have no clue. Those ones, but
Yeah.
I don't really. I just live my life. In a way,
Like you don't stress about it.
I see myself as an individual.
Right.
I'm proud of being a Mexican, but I don't feel like what I do is what all Mexicans do or what other Mexicans do, that's me. I
Right.
don't. To be completely honest with you, that's
You
the
are
way I
not
say
Mexico.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I see myself as an individual. Period.
No, that's well stated. I think for me, it's I yeah, I like the way you stated it because yeah, for me, it's like I do consider myself as an individual, but I do care about fixing the bad uh
Image.
image. Yeah, and it's not even like a personal goal, right, of mine. Like I don't go out there and trying to put the like get that stereotype out there. No, it's not that. But I am mindful of, at least you're not gonna see me, or unless I knock on wood that I hope you never see me on my worst out there and and doing what I shouldn't be doing or whatever. But it will be really hard for me to go about it and and put a bad name to my background. But it's important at least to recognize that, like you're saying, like I don't think it's always gonna be here, but as in like racism, I really hope I'm a dreamer. Like I really hope that that's not true in the future. But I 100% agree with you that there's just always gonna be bad people in a good society, and the other way around. There's always gonna be good people in a bad society. Like it's just the yin. I'm gonna get metaphorical. There's the yin yang of things, right? Like where there is light, there's gonna be a shadow.
Yeah.
And at least it's to minimize that. Now the other thing too is, like, to your point is, I've had my bosses have been, well, not right now, but in the past have been white. And in I'll be completely lying if and at the beginning, I could tell, like, and like anything, if you don't know somebody, you kind of you measure yourself to them and see how they react to certain things. Like my boss, for example, I'm great boss. I mean, never offended me, or anything like that. Like a super nice guy, super down to earth. And in one of the conversations that we were having, right, this is after years of knowing each other, the topic came back with like him as a white person did fear saying something that was going to be taken, even when it was just in a joking matter. He was afraid of saying a joke because he didn't know how it was going to be taken. So it goes to your point of saying, like, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter the color. Everybody has that fear of doing something that, that speaks to the will of the person, right? Of like, they don't, a lot of people don't want to hurt you, really. It's just, maybe they're, in my opinion, you don't have to be politically or 100% right on whatever you're saying. In my eyes, like, you can make mistakes, but, I can't expect somebody to be perfect all the time, and people have sometimes those fouls, bad expectations of, like, everybody has to be like on top of their game, perfect, Hollywood, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody expects the best at all times from you, and it's just not the case. I mean, people are gonna slip. I'm gonna give you a good example of something that happened recently, and you may chuckle, but you have seen a lot of videos of Zoom calls and Teams calls of people accidentally leaving the mic on or whatever, and then saying something that they don't mean, right? Well, not too long ago, and I mean like a matter of like this week. Granted, we were all tired and we all had a lot of meetings, but in a particular meeting, a guy forgot to turn off his mic. And those Teams meetings are tricky because you're talking, but then other people are talking, and if there's a lot of people, and you forget to mute yourself or whatever.
Right.
So we're going over going over this thing, right? And the guy forgets to. To be honest, we were asking a lot from this guy. Like, he was the presenter, and it was a discussion, right, or like a review of something, and we kept interrupting him and going like, no, can you go back? Can you go forth? Like, there was a lot of info being thrown at this guy. And he forgets to mute himself, and he says something, and I'm not going to say what he said, but he said something and noted that there's higher ups there, right, in this meeting. And he forgot to mute himself, and maybe I'll say into the context that he said it. He's all like, if you would just stay quiet and wait for me to get there, we could get this meeting going better. And something in that context. And he forgot, and a lot of people stayed quiet. And then one of my coworkers, he was, because the guy didn't know he was he was not muted, and the guys are like, that we could hear you, right? To what he goes like, shit. So because we all heard what he said,
Right.
and I felt so bad for the guy, man. I think he would have. I think he's probably like, to this day, he's probably like, holy shit, like, who's gonna cancel me, or who's gonna, am I gonna get sent to, like, let's say HR or whatever, right? And if that, he doesn't know my boss, but my boss is all like, my boss didn't. It's like whatever, we knew that we were asking a lot from this person, so it's like
He understood the
he
situation.
understood this. It's like no need, but it's just to what extent do you take things, and how there's the give and take.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel it just creates tension when you can't even, joke, make a joke. And obviously there's, from jokes to jokes, right? Like, there are jokes that are, completely, innocent, or, you're just, shooting the shit. You're not really, meaning to be offensive or
Well, it's a joke.
racist. Yeah, it's a freaking joke.
Did
But
you?
the fact that people are now even afraid at the at your job or your place of employment to even joke, it just creates tension, and it's not a pleasant environment.
How do you think comedians do it?
Oh, right, yeah, they can say anything because it's a joke.
It's a,
Well, some have gotten canceled recently.
and that's where I want to go, because did you ever watch, like, the Chappelle Show? Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So you know the jokes that get said there, right?
Oh yeah.
Would you put those at the edge of, your borderline? Could, a lot of people could take that joke the wrong way and go south, right?
For sure. I mean, to me, I just think they're freaking hilarious, because I kind of grew up, with Dave Chappelle, and like I know his humor, and because of that, I just think that type of, South Park, Dave Chappelle, like all those kind of like edgy, very
Black
a
humor,
lot of like black
that,
humor, I guess. I just think it's hilarious. So I've seen a problem, but yeah, I can totally see someone who may not know, or may not enjoy this type of humor or whatever, totally thinking that it's completely inappropriate.
Yeah, like if you put a blindfold and you have somebody like listen to Dave Chappelle, and you remove all the laughters, they may not even know that the guy is a comedian. He's like, trying to he's just trying to entertain.
Okay.
Like, people, like you're saying, like, they would. You may be just right. I'm willing to bet $100 that he has gotten sued, or he has been gotten like bad rep just for the type of comedy that he does.
Yeah.
And
plus the guy is like really like good at it.
Yeah,
he's just funny. He's freaking funny.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's to your liking, right? Like, you don't have to like the guy. If you don't like the joke, don't listen. Once again, it's in the context that it's a joke, right? Like, you're going to a comedy show. I mean, expect to hear a couple of things that you may feel offended. It's just,
it's that's how society works. That not everyone is gonna think like you. If it's
a parody.
If someone is doing something illegal, like clearly illegal, that it's and they're a racist group, or they're doing that's clearly illegal, and we should all be mad about that. But just because someone, especially a comedian or someone, is just simply has a different opinion, for one, it's not illegal. We live in a free country. As long as you're not hurting anyone, then you can say whatever you want. And a lot of people do not understand. They get emotional really quick. And like you said, if you do not share the opinion, you don't like it, you don't have to go to their show, you don't have to watch their movie, you don't have to listen to their music, you don't have to do really anything. No one is forcing you to watch the Chappelle show. No one is forcing you to listen to, you know, any artist that you think is racist. No one is forcing you to watch a show, a movie. You can do whatever you want. A lot of people like it. A lot of people hate it. Free country.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I'm glad that we can that we can talk about it. But yeah, I want to say, I mean, give me your answer, but or whatever you feel. But the reason why I think the divide is right, it's one, yeah, like I was saying in the past, it's lack of patience, lack of empathy, maybe for the other person, you know, on the other side, and sometimes it's the false expectations that we have, right? Like you have to know, right? Like this is a joke, you know, it's a joke. It is what it is. You know, it's fine, right? It's just like anything that you see out there, right? Like, and yes, I get the argument, you know, and going back to the black and white and gray area, right? It's sure some people are gonna be like, well, the argument could be like by you saying a wrong statement, you're hurting a lot of people that are gonna fall for it, right? We get it, you know. That's not the point. The point is that there's no room anymore to talk. Like people don't talk. Like just out of curiosity, like how many meaningful conversations outside of your work are you able to have with people outside of like your wife, let's say?
Like people that I think
Like
I could share anything.
It has to be a handful.
Yeah, a handful. I was gonna say that.
So I mean, doesn't that suck though?
Yeah, I mean the fact that it's out there. I mean, my personality, I wouldn't necessarily just go anywhere and
talk about it. Right? No, yeah.
But you're talking about more the possibility or like people. You know, the
openness
being
let's say
out there.
We go to like a dinner or like a bar and you start talking about this stuff. It doesn't happen, at least not to me. Usually those conversations are kind of reserved to like either super close friends or family.
Oh, yeah, because it's controversial. That's
because
why.
It's controversial where it maybe shouldn't be. Like a great example is I had a meaningful conversation with a coworker over beers on a lunch, and I had only known the guy for like, you know, besides a couple of email exchanges and maybe like a conversation or two, like we hadn't really, I can't say he's my friend, right? Like I don't know the guy that well yet.
Like the first time you saw this guy at a bar, you just went at BLM.
Well, I literally, this was the first time we had lunch together and a beer together. And we had said like, yeah, dude, like, you know, you know, COVID, you know, didn't allow it. You know, we were both new to the company. We're like, yeah, dude, let's go have a beer, you know, like whatever, catch up, whatnot, like get more familiar with each other. We're around the same age and everything. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I will say like, this guy is like, a devoted Christian. And the conversation that we had was about religion. And it was a good conversation. There was like, we're really, you know, like after that conversation, I can say like, wow, this is somebody that I can talk to, because the conversations that we had were not intended to have sway anybody in any meaningful way. It was just a conversation, right?
Right.
Like, and those are the type of conversations that I go like, there's not a lot of people out there that you can talk to that level. Like, in retrospective, right, that conversation could have gone wrong in so many ways. Especially, like I said, like, you know how they say in at work, you never want to talk about politics, religion, and I forget the third one.
Cliche, yeah.
Yeah.
You and sports, right?
Yeah, those may be the three.
Or nah.
Nah, I think I think I mean, we may be wrong, but I mean we'll say it is because you can get in a fight basically from talking shit about a different team. But yeah, I mean that's why. And who even came up with that rule?
Yeah, if you're not talking about that, what are you even talking about?
Those are the trifecta of the things that you want to have.
I think that's okay when you are with people that that are emotionally stable and you can talk to them about all these stuff. They're not going to be disrespectful. You're not going to be disrespectful to them. Or towards them.
You're saying that if her name is Karen, I should not talk to that person.
Basically, that's the rule.
By the way, imagine how many people are actually going to name their kid Karen after everything that happened in COVID. And
no, it's going to be the opposite. Isn't there going to be a decline?
Yeah, there should be a decline, but I feel bad for anybody named Karen after everything that has happened.
But I feel that it's always been the case that you can't just go up to a random stranger and talk about politics or religion and expect everyone to be okay and fine and dandy. At least I think it's unrealistic to expect that everyone is going to be okay, even if you're not being offensive with talking about these topics. A lot of people hold them too close to them. A lot of people don't, simply by their personality, don't want to share their religious beliefs for obvious reasons, politics or whatever. So I feel it's always been the case, not just nowadays because of the current state of things. It's just more visible, yes, again, because of social media.
Yeah, I think we just need to learn to coexist. Understand that nobody's perfect. Understand that not everybody's gonna agree 100% with
and that's okay. That should be okay. You shouldn't get mad about it.
That is okay. Yeah, like not because you and I don't have the exact same opinion means that we can't sit at the table, have a beer, and talk about it. That's the reason for the podcast, and I think that's an amazing way to like wrap it up. I really hope that we have every kind of discussion, or we talked about everything pretty much on the podcast. I think we get serious and sometimes we don't, but the whole point of it is be able to have any kind of discussion at any level. And, if you're into it, you're into it. And if you're not, then you're not. And hence the name, it is what it is.
Leo for president. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
All right, guys. See you next time.